counterpart.
Yeah.
Time to reflect. Talk about how you feel about where you are right now at this point, defense and team overall.
Yeah, I mean, we want to win games, and we haven't won games for 2 weeks. So, that's where we're at in a game, looking to win a game in a game week. So, we just had a good one. We had a good one yesterday. And so the guys are working really hard. Excited to be back home, excited for homecoming. Got a good opponent coming in. So, that's where I say we're at.
Team effort, I mean, you don't want to split one side, offense versus defense, but when you feel that you're gaining traction, how do you kind of balance that with the overall perspective to keep morale up, keep motivation going for the entire team?
Well, what I would say is if you have the right people in the room, coaches and players, the motivation isn't as hard. And what I mean by that is everyone has a personal standard. Everyone has a job to do. I get there's emotions in the game of football. I have them. I'm not immune to them. But I would say we have good people. And so, we want to do our best to have a great week of preparation to go out and put our team in position to win. So that's what we're working for.
Is there any encouragement or frustration that the last, maybe the first 5 games of the year, you guys haven't put together a complete game, but there's been signs that on both sides of the ball,
Yeah.
that you could?
Yeah. I think, I wouldn't say, listen, you ask, is there frustration? Again, we're in the business of winning football games, and we don't feel like we've played a complete game as an offense, defense, and special teams. The flashes give you what you're capable of, right? The dips are the lack of consistency. So I think the flashes give you the belief that you can do it and the motivation. If there weren't the flashes, then you're sitting there saying, hey, we got some issues, right? But there are the flashes. We got to have them more consistent, and we got to get them at the same time. And if we do that at the same time, I think everyone will like what they see. So.
With the pass rush, obviously, we saw something different last week. How do you guys find that success? And is that something you can build up going ahead?
Yeah. So obviously there was some pressure created. I thought our edge guys did a good job. I thought we got some good collapse of the pocket as well. I thought Coach Lange and Coach Wilt did a good job coaching it for really 2 weeks because we had a bye week. The other thing that I think you'll note in that game was there was good tight coverage, and I think anytime the quarterback has to hold the ball, that's going to give an advantage to the rush. And so I think it was a good game of complementary football between the back end and the front end. They kind of worked together, and when they did, we were able to get some sacks and affect the quarterback. So, again, that's what we're capable of. So let's continue to build on it.
You guys got put in some really tough, sudden change situations and got out of it. I can't remember how many stops in a row you guys got, but second quarter really
Yeah.
it seemed like, in third quarter. I guess what was working that didn't early and at the end.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it was third down success. So, like the first series, there was a couple third downs where we didn't get off the field, and then they went down and scored. I think in the stretch where we were playing really well, we were getting stops on third down, and I think a couple instances fourth down as well. And then the last 2 touchdowns, I know there was the one at the end when we went for it, but the 2 that kind of changed the course of the game, it was a 3rd and 10, and we got beaten coverage. And so that one, along with the screen that we didn't get on the ground, we got guys around it, and we didn't get it on the ground, and we got to own that. I got to own that. To me, those were the difference in the game. So.
Was there coverage improvement you got? Is that just a matter of film study corrections, just reiterating how you want it done?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of all 3. I think there's scheme, I think there's personnel, and I think there's coaching, right? And so in that game, I thought our guys that were covering in the slot did a good job. Malcolm Bell was in there for the first time, and I thought he did a nice job. I thought Ayden West did a nice job on the outside, and Josh did a nice job, and then Chance stepped in a little bit and did a nice job. So I think those guys that were out there corner did a good job staying sticky on their coverage, and we probably played our best game in terms of covering the slot in that game. And so those guys, then you combine that, hey, they got to hold it for 2-3 extra tenths of a second, right? Now you get your rush home. So.
As far as being the green dot, Jordan Hall, I know he's probably plenty motivated from what happened at USC with the targeting all that, but
Yeah.
it was like a complete game, communication, his own performance. I know he had the pick, like Jordan Hall in that game.
Yeah.
Where does that gel in terms of his abilities and sort of the level he can achieve with his potential?
Yeah, I think he's playing at a high level. and I think to date, he's played well. I think his communication is really good. I think he runs the show. I think he has another, gear, so to speak, that he can take his game to. He can probably be the best one I've coached in my career. And he's not there yet, but that's how much I think of him in terms of his ability athletically with genetics from his mom and dad and from God, but also just who he is as a person. He's super smart and he works really hard. So he's having a good year, but I also think there's more there, and we're coaching him really hard, and he's working really hard to kind of get it to that level as well.
What are the signs that? You're good. Go for it. No,
Yeah, I mean, he's quote unquote the quarterback of the defense, and so him not being in there and having to have other guys step in, that wasn't the reason why we didn't get the game. That's football, right? But he's a key part to what we're doing, and so it was good to be able to get him back in the last one.
The signs of him reaching that next year, what will those be? What's the thing you're going to see and be like, he's there?
Well, where he's a guy that kind of just takes over a game, and the best linebackers in the country are able to just like take over games, and I think he's capable of doing that. And like I said, I think he's playing well, but I just share with you that's what I think he's capable of. And that's why he's such a special kid and special player.
The game in Nebraska was the first time I really got to see Octavius Nash.
Yeah.
And what you thought, if you look back at his tape, what he brought, and kind of how maybe the back end shapes up when you start adding more a few bodies.
Yeah. So obviously he had the injury in camp, and then he had was out for a significant time, and then he starts working back in, and you're trying to get his feet under him because he didn't really have a training camp. Early on, what he had showed was that he had some, number one, good football savvy. He played multiple spots. He played corner, safety, nickel, and he was good in coverage. And so we felt like last week we could, after a bye week, we worked him really hard, and we felt like we could get him going, and he played some snaps, and I thought he did a good job. I think as he gets reps, we can continue to expand his role. I think he can give us something on first and second down. I think he can give us something on third down as well. I think he has some ability to cover. I think he's got some ability to blitz. So we're excited to have him back. I think if you start to get people coming back into the lineup, if and when you start to get people coming back into the lineup, then we'll get our best combination out there, but also feel like we have the ability to rotate some guys.
UCLA system, what do you notice in terms of differences with UCLA since they've changed up their offensive stand a little bit?
Yeah, I think they're executing better. It isn't like there was dramatic changes in the scheme. I would probably say they've simplified a little bit. I think it was more of a mental change. I think there was an energy and enthusiasm with the team, and I thought their OC, the coach did a great job, called a really good game, and his players responded. And so I think what you'll see is you're going to see that team. That's who you're going to see here. That other team's gone. I've been through that in my career. There was a time in Minnesota when we made a change at DC and we weren't playing real well, and I took over as defensive coordinator. And I'm not saying it was because of me. It's because of the kids. But it just sparked a little bit of like an energy and an enthusiasm, and the mindset changed. And that's just a great lesson that performance a lot of times has to do with your mind, right? And so their mind flipped with the change. Coach called a great game. They simplified it. They put up a bunch of points on a really good defense, and that's who's coming here. You forget about those other 4 games. So they certainly have our attention. The quarterback's one of the better players in the country. I've been impressed by the receivers. The running backs run the ball hard. They ran inside zone 10, 15 times versus Penn State and had tremendous success. So our guys are excited for the challenge and working real hard in practice. So.
What did you see from their quarterback? He had, I think he had 120-something rushing that time. And what was UCLA's quarterback doing so well in that game?
Well, it wasn't so much even called QB runs, right? I mean, they had called QB runs, but he scrambled, and he hurt, Penn State with the scramble. We had 3 or 4 really big ones. So that's always so deflating for a defense. Hey, you're in good coverage, you've got people covered up, and then the quarterback pulls it down and rushes not only for a first down, but he goes and gets an explosive play. And That was, to me, a big difference maker in that game, so.
Is this a week where maybe your best scout team quarterback is your number one quarterback in Ayden in that respect?
Well, so you think we're going to get him over on the scouts?
No, you know what I mean, though. It's like you guys have.
We've gone against them.
That kind of guy.
Yeah, we had to defend him all training camp, absolutely. You got a long guy with a really good arm who can run. That is very similar to Ayden, and so we've defended him all training camp and all spring. Now, he's not going to be on the scout team this week. You know, I went to Lingering and he said no, but yeah, I think we've got some familiarity with that type of quarterback. You know, we attempt to generate it in practice with the scouts, but as you know, that's not easy. Like, you got one of the better talents in the country, and you're trying to simulate that in practice, and we do our best, and then you show film, and you know, you kind of educate the guys to the best of your ability in practice.
On the defensive side of the ball, is maybe the belief in the mental side that you alluded to, is that almost as important as anything else with defense, just because you're trying to stop someone that you try to control the game like that? I don't know. I'm trying to
Yeah, no, yes, I don't disagree. Belief is critical in everything that you do. If you don't believe in yourself, you're not going to have a lot of success, right? I just listened to a podcast yesterday morning while I'm working, and there was this doctor, and the doctor said when he was in fourth grade, his teacher called him in and asked him what he wanted to be. And he said, I want to be a doctor. And the teacher says, you should probably give that up because you struggle in school, and you're going to be lucky to get the grades that you need to get a passing grade. He said for the next 10 years, he thought he was a dummy. He said, but his freshman year in college, a professor called him after in his English class and said, what's your major? He goes, I haven't decided yet. She said, you should be an English major because this is a special paper. And then all of a sudden, he thought, you know what, I'm smart. And so my point is mental important? Yeah, it's important. You got to believe in yourself, but you can't just talk it into existence. You got to will it into existence through your work. You gain confidence through two things: preparation and positive action. So preparation is the work. Positive action is actually going out and having some success. And so I think as a football team and as a defense, that's what we're striving for. And when we can, continue to gain confidence, we'll gain consistency in our game. If we gain consistency in game, we'll keep the peaks and eliminate some of the valleys.
One of your defensive leaders, you finally get him back. Now he's been out for the last game and a half. How much does that affect the back end? You got him oriented guys like do stuff, but him and
Yeah. So here's the thing. Nick Hayes was one of our best players last year. Obviously, we haven't had him consistently this year. Through training camp, he came back, was in and out against Youngstown, was out versus USC. I know, we're hoping to get him back. He's day to day. It isn't like he's been there. So when he's there, it's obviously a bonus because he's a tremendous player. But that's not something that we're like, oh, we don't have him. We haven't had him. We haven't had him all. We haven't had him all training camp, and we're going to get him back. But and when he does, it's like just adding an extra piece in, a guy who's a really good player. So.
What have you thought about Ayden West? It's really one of the only young guys that's sort of in the mix for you. It's a spotlight, what's he done, and what do you sort of see as his road for this year? And how are you going to?
Yeah, I mean, he's playing a ton, right? I think he's got a super high ceiling. I think at the end of this thing in 4 years, you're going to say, this is a hell of a player. He has ability, but there's tons of people around the country who have ability. His thing is he's smart and he cares and he works hard. And so when you have guys that have ability and they're smart and they care and they work hard, they end up being great players. And he's going to be a great player. Is that going to be on Saturday? I don't know. Is that going to be 2 Saturdays? I don't know that either. But at some point here, he's going to be a great player because he has the ability, but more importantly, he has the intangibles. So we've been very pleased with him. I think he's made some mistakes and he's learning along the way, but he's one of those guys, when he makes a mistake, he kind of gets it and says, okay, here's what I need to do the next time, and he very rarely makes the same mistake. So.
Anything else, or?
Well, when you get the 5 sacks, it's different guys.
Yeah.
Mostly. I'm just wondering, did you see anything on them this week, that night, or anything? Like, did they need that? Did they need to see? Because when we talked about your defensive guys, we talked about how close they feel like they are in miss situations. When they see a little success, did you notice the reactions, body language, or hearing things? Like, do they need to see that?
Yeah, I think so. I think that goes back to what I said a few minutes ago in terms of confidence. You have the work, right? And you can work, but then when you get a little bit of like affirmation for the work, right? Then it's like, okay, like that feels good. Like, that motivates me to work more. So to answer your question, yes, like to be able to kind of get home a little bit and have some success gives and adds to the confidence. I think it adds to the desire to prepare and work really hard. So, but the thing we talk about and Coach talks about too, each week's his own week, right? So just because you had success last week doesn't mean you're going to have success next week. Just because you didn't have success last week doesn't mean you're going to have success the next week. Now, it does give confidence and it does carry over, and over the course of time, you know, if you put consistency together, you're probably going to like how it looks. But I think we're real quick as a staff to make sure that we know that 1 week doesn't guarantee success. One lack of success doesn't guarantee lack of success in the next week.
Do you feel like you're getting closer to a consistent full defensive effort? You mentioned goals include the entire team offensive gets earlier, but defense in general, you feel like you're closer to what you want to look like?
Here's what I would say, and I'm gonna answer it this way. Over the bye week, I thought we had a great week of practice. Last week, I thought we had a great week of practice. This week, I think we got 2 great practices so far. So if we can continue to practice at a high level, what you'll find is our performance will continue to get better and better, and we'll see where we go. So that'll be the stress.
Thanks, Coach.
Hey, thanks. See ya.